how can I be on the team that helps this child become an effective adult? How can I help give this child the tool sets, the emotional skills, and the grit to be able to be successful in however they define success? It doesn't matter how I define success. How can I give that child the things that they need to become in life an actual self-actualized person, to become what they're supposed to be?
Hello, this is James Cox with the Martial Arts Lifestyle. We are episode number 76 today. I'm excited for this interview. I have a good friend, colleague. This is a lifetime martial artist, Mr. Derek. Is it Crowley? I'm such a good friend. I can say your last name so well. Crowley. That's pretty easy. Derek Crowley. Yeah. And from North Carolina or South Carolina?
Yep, I'm from Asheville, North Carolina.
Asheville, North Carolina. I don't know why I still get the two confused, the North and the South there. But anyway, I know you somewhat recently you got your third degree black belt under the legend himself, Mr. Bill Wallace. But we're going to talk about a lot of things, and I know you're going to add some good value to the listeners. It's martial arts and it's life, the way of martial arts, right? But if we could start off, Mr. Derek, just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about this journey that you've had so far.
Okay, sure. You know, I started doing martial arts when I was maybe 8 years old, give or take, because I wanted to be Luke Skywalker and Chuck Norris. That was my main motivation. And so, you know, we went to the local karate school that was owned by a guy named Ronnie Barkut in Columbia, South Carolina. And we did full contact kickboxing, basically full contact karate with Japanese kata. And the kata, we had no idea what they meant. It was just some fly dance moves. We just kid stuff and fall all the time. My first fight, whenever I was 8, was a full contact fight because I didn't know that was insane. You know, and then from there, I got, I don't know, maybe blue beltish there. But then with my dad's job, we moved out to Sacramento, California, where I started training under a guy named Dave Kovar. And that was in Chinese Kempo. And then he also tagged on Junri Taekwondo at some point. And I got my first black belt under Dave out there before we moved back to South Carolina. And Dave Kovar was actually hugely influential on me in terms of how to be an ethical person, how to be a good martial arts instructor, how to have empathy, how to basically how to be a genuine good person was something that Dave did for me, and I'm eternally grateful for that. But then we moved back to Aiken, South Carolina, and I started training in the Thai system. This was whenever I was, I think, a sophomore in high school. We moved back. And so there was a blend of Kempo karate and jiu-jitsu and some kung fu-lery designed by a guy named David German. And so, you know, I was doing Kempo under Dave and with some stuff on the side, and mostly Kempo and jiu-jitsu in the David German system with some stuff on this side. That was under a guy named Andy Watford, and he'd have David German show up all the time. And so from there, went to college at Clemson, and I started training in whatever was available. So I'd go and do some of the sparring clubs and the Hapkido club and the whatever else they had going on. I would jump into that and just train. I ended up going to a Goju-Ryu karate school under a guy named Stuart Fowler, and just because he was just nearby, and started training under there for a while. And then after college, I also started in college when I started doing a lot more Tai Chi and Chinese internal martial arts and stuff like that. And so from that, moved back to Aiken, South Carolina with the stuff there. And I worked there for a couple of years, then moved to China. And in China, I started taking private lessons every day under a guy named Liu Chanshan, and working out in some different kinds of Tai Chi and Qigong. And I learned an art called Yonggong Tan Tuen, which is kind of cool. It's a secret style of Kung Fu. I even have a secret Kung Fu manual because you got to have one of those. It's just what's fun. So then, you know, my then girlfriend, now wife, Brooke, we're in China, and we're going, boy, we could live anywhere we want to in America. Where are we going to live? And so we kind of agreed on Asheville. And so we moved to Asheville, and in 2000 opened up shop. And since then we've been open. We have 2 schools now. We joined Premier in 2013, but over that time period, I started hanging out in the early 2000s with a guy named George Shu. I continued training with David German in the Thai system and the Kempo and Jiu-Jitsu till he died. In fact, I found him dead. He was doing a show for me, a seminar for me, and I went to pick him up, take him to the airport, and he was in the hotel room, passed away. But anyway, trained with him for that long, and then I trained with some stuff and under a guy named Brian Adams for a little while. We didn't sing nearly as much as I thought we would. It was mostly a scream stuff and a scream fighting, the stick fighting and stuff, and a scream locking and so on. And then under Shu Guoming or George Shu, really deep dived into internal martial arts, and which I really enjoy. And in fact, I would dare say George Shu's work is my favorite art that I do. But then several years ago, started under Premier, getting into Krav Maga and that kind of stuff, and really enjoy that as well. And that's kind of where we are. So that's and at some point in time, I know what it was. I started training with Bill Wallace because I'd always wanted to, but I didn't get around to it. I'd always do it tomorrow. But I finally decided to go do the stuff under him consciously and intentionally because I'd been training kind of off and on with Joe Louis through a good friend of mine, Kevin Hudson,
Wow.
who's a fancy pants Joe Louis black belt. So every time he was the next town over. So every time I would go down there, and every time Joe would show up for a workshop or seminar, I'd go down there and take part. And they kept inviting me to go take the black belt test under Joe Louis. And I'm like, I'll do it next year. I'll do it next year. Well, then he died. There was no next year. I suppose I could still do it under his system, which maybe I will, because they're great people. But I couldn't do it under Joe anymore. I missed that window. So I'm like, by gosh, I'm not going to miss that under Bill. So I'm going to make sure I get down there and do the stuff in the Bill Wallace system. So I have been, and I've been having a good time with that too. I'm kind of the opinion, if I'm not training in at least 2 or 3 things, if I'm not a white belt in something, I'm wasting my life right now. So I'm always doing something that I'm training in, something I'm starting, something I'm enjoying in martial arts. I just really enjoy the process of training in martial arts. So that's my recap of my life.
Man, that's awesome, Derek. I've known you for a while, and I didn't know all that. I mean, I knew you were heavy into the Chinese arts, but what a blessing. I mean, to be such a mutt, right? To have such the collage and the variety of things, and you moved, some by choice, some not, but you've been in a lot of places and had a lot of different arts, quite different from one of the other art as well, right? And martial arts is a small world. I know several of those people that you mentioned. It's just spread out, but that's awesome. The best thing that I heard there was if you're not a white belt at something, then you're not living, right? You're not living the journey of the martial arts way. And that's amazing because there's so many people that will not accept that. I see it more today, like people, trying to start something like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or something and to start over as a white belt and to be humble enough and open-minded enough to do that, because you might be the man at your high rank in your certain style, but then to be able to accept the new ways, that's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Well, the thing is,
Overall,
you are the man at that. It's just, why not put yourself in a position to learn and grow as a person? I think that's, otherwise, what are you doing with your life in general if you're not putting yourself out there to learn things and to grow as a person? That's my opinion.
no, that's true. I mean, why not? I mean, as far as we know, this is the life you have, and get the most out of it. And yeah, it's cool to be the man and have that title or rank, I guess. But man, if you're a martial artist and continue to learn and be a student as well, as you're learning from other people and things. But martial arts is quite a funny thing, isn't it? Again, quite a variety. What do you think overall? You can maybe give me both sides. What's the best parts of martial arts? And, well, let's be honest, what's the sides of it that's not so great?
I think the best part of martial art is that martial arts are things that people can totally nerd out about. You can do massive deep dives and goes really far into whatever genre of art you're interested in. Uh, and with that, though, unfortunately, whenever people become so passionate about things, that passion is a wonderful thing, but it does also lead to a bit of egoism and closed-mindedness as well. What I'm doing is the best way to do it is a lot of where people get, and I think that's a negative aspect of that, that I think is also kind of human nature. You really get really good at something and you're not really willing to listen to something else. And so I think those are some of the good and bad things in martial arts. We can deep dive and nerd out, but we can also our egos can get in the way of us, I think, sometimes. So I think it's a good life lesson to try to watch out for that in ourselves, and see if we can bypass that as much as possible.
Right. Yeah. To have some self awareness a little bit, to just really think about what's going on there and to have a good balance with it. You can take anything from one extreme to another, right? So, yeah, besides being a martial artist, lifelong martial artist, and such a variety of travels and experiences and different systems and styles, I'm sure, man, there's so many takeaways there that you have. But you're also an instructor, an entrepreneur, school owner. To be an owner and operator in today's times can have its own challenges. But what is the power of the teaching that you provide for others in the martial arts? We talk so much, it's in every advertisement about the benefits and the value of martial arts. But when you've been doing it as long as you have, you truly have many testimonials. So, I guess what I'm asking, the power of teaching, what do you have from there?
Yeah, boy, how do you quantify a lifelong journey? That's an interesting question, right? Yeah, how would you put it in an ad blurb? How, basically, you can't, but you can attempt to. And so, we all martial arts schools advertise, build self-confidence and self-respect and self-discipline and focus, and that's all true. But I think those are really superficial words to describe deep-seated personal growth. And so, I really view our role as martial arts instructors as we're part of that student's educational pathway. And if we're talking about teaching children, then we're talking about how can I be on the team that helps this child become an effective adult? How can I help give this child the tool sets, the emotional skills, and the grit to be able to be successful in however they define success? Doesn't matter how I define success. How can I give that child the things that they need to become in life an actual self-actualized person, to become what they're supposed to be? Then if we're talking about an adult, it was funny. Whenever I was maybe 25 and I first opened up shop, I didn't really understand why a 40, 50-year-old adult would want to come train under me. And what do I have to offer a 40-year-old at 25 was kind of my thought process. Now I would, right? I'd accept them as a student and take their money and do the best I could. But what I didn't understand then that I know now is, you work a job and you do your life and you look up and 20 years have gone by and you haven't done anything for you. Now what, right? And so I get that now. It's important to have a thing that you do that you feel like you're growing in. And if you're just punching in and punching out of a job for your whole career, like a lot of people do, and there's nothing wrong with that because you have to, people have to do what they have to do. But it's also when you get the opportunity to do something for you where you can start working on your personal growth and doing a deeper dive into aspects of self. I think that's one of the most powerful things we can do as martial arts instructors, and helping people find those things that make them. I like the phrase self-actualized. Find deeper layers of self.
I like that, self-actualized. Yep, yep. That becoming the best version of yourself and helping pull it out from within, right, from the other people, and because we've seen it, we've done it for decades and decades now. And I talk to so many people about martial arts, and through this podcast, I've been fortunate to interview so many top grandmasters and world champions and just people, and it's a common thing, man, about these benefits and the value of the martial arts and what it can do for people. Now, it could and it should be work. It's not easy. We didn't say it was easy. We just said it would be worth it, right? And you're gonna get out of what you put in it. What about in the business sense of running? You have 3 schools. Is that correct, Derek?
I have two.
Two. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Same as me. So we know ourselves from staff finding and training the right people and the challenges that we go through in the journey of choosing to do this for a living. Because to me, it's like I could do it part time, where I work an 8 to 5 job. I come in and teach from 6 to 9. Man, but where's my energy and focus? And how many people am I really able to help empower lives? Do I want 30 students or 300? And do I want 300 students because there's 300 more lives that we can impact versus 30, right? So I feel that we're on that same journey, where
Yeah.
it's not about the money, because we would still teach for free, we would still be doing it, but it sure is nice, and we are blessed to have this opportunity where we don't really go to work, and that's what makes it a career, right? But what
Yep,
are the
yep.
challenges in the business and your thoughts on running, oh, let's just call it commercial martial arts schools?
Yeah, as far as that goes, there's always somebody willing to say mean things about something that somebody else is doing. In terms of, do you have a backyard school or a garage school or a small commercial school or a large commercial school? There's always somebody who's looking at you from the outside and putting the filter of their perception on what you're doing, and it's always a negative one, right? You're a McDojo if you're successful, and of course not. Of course not. I've in fact, I'm not really sure I believe in the concept of a McDojo, because I've never met a martial artist that wasn't a martial artist and doing their best they could to try to be a good martial artist, and they had different views on how to accomplish that. But anyway, I digress a little. Uh, to me, I think the big challenges for me in terms of running a martial arts school was, as you just said, I'm not really a money motivated person. I, I want enough money because I want to be able to, live somewhere, eat, stuff like that, pay the mortgage, pay the rent.
Yeah,
So I need enough
basics.
money, but that's just not really how I define myself. I define myself, as you just said, based on how many lives can I touch and how many people can I help improve themselves via what we teach. And what's interesting for me, the big jump going from one school to two schools was when I had one school, I kind of did everything and I had people help me with that, but I did all the stuff. I wanted to be the person doing it and teaching, because I love teaching. I love martial arts. I loved watching people grow in martial arts and stuff like that. But then whenever you open more schools up, I cannot physically be on the mat all the time anymore. Uh, I can't, because there's a class happening in two different locations at the same time. How's that going to work? So the hard part at first was learning to grow myself to the point that I didn't have to be the person on the mat anymore. And it's about having trust and faith, and um, having the ability to look at somebody else and realize that that person is capable. Trust. And that's a pretty important life lesson, right? How many things in our lives do we get burned by people who abuse our trust, and then we close that door to trusting people that we should trust, and by mistrusting people we should trust, then we mess things up for ourselves. I think that can be an important life lesson as well. So getting people that you can trust, and then coaching them, help them become what I was, the person who's empowering people through martial arts. And so my job has not actually changed. It's just that right now I'm trying to help people grow and self-actualize and so on, that are the people that are helping other people grow and self-actualize. And I think that's actually really cool. Whenever I finally kind of figured out and developed myself to the point that I could step off the mat, I still teach classes. I just don't teach 50 a week myself. I teach, I think 5 or 6, and learn to help other people help other people. I think that became a very powerful thing for me, and that's pretty neat if you ask me. I'm pretty excited about that even still. Makes me happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Learn to help people help other people, right? Yeah, yeah. Well, we're very similar, man, in what we do there. I've seen you, I've trained with you, I've known some of your staff and students, and you're doing great things. So I want to acknowledge that, and I commend you for that, because it's just the little things we do for our community that eventually, in a way, have an impact on the world, right? So we just keep kicking. Maybe not as high as we used to, but we keep kicking.
Not going to stop.
Right, right. Well, I have some, I guess we could call it kind of rapid fire, just some short questions, random maybe ish, and you can give me an answer and maybe even a reason why. So, let's talk about what is the best style of martial arts and why.
The one you fall in love with is the best one. I submit to you that there are no bad martial arts. There are bad martial artists, but different martial arts they're for different things. So if you're a person that really enjoys, for example, forms competition, Well, they know when they're up to doing jump back flips that it's more about the artistic presentation than are you going to actually, you know, defend yourself against a pistol with the jumping back flip. Of course not. They know that. They're pursuing a different aspect versus somebody who's doing one of the many genres of fight sport that all have different rule sets and therefore different functionality versus things that maybe are a bit different in terms of like some more self-defense oriented style, different functionality. And there's crossover in all of them. But I think the best martial art is what's the one that you like. Where you start doing it makes you giddy whenever you decide you want to start training in that. That's the one for you. And I think there's strong benefits and amazing aspects to all of it. So as far as the best martial art, I can't say this one or that one because I don't know what are we talking about here. But it's on an individual basis what makes you feel good. So that's my 2 cents on that.
No, I agree. That's a good answer. I mean, it's like food. You start with the end in mind, and what is your goal? How are you going to get there? They all have a purpose, right? And yeah, you're just personal preference there. So, all right. What about the age to start martial arts? Because we get it. You're too young. You're too old. What's the best age to join a martial arts school?
Whatever age you are, as far as you can have kids begin doing stuff at 3 and 4 year old. In my opinion, that's more about teaching people how to do a class and so on and so forth, really. So as far as learning actual martial art, I would dare say 5 on average. But at the same time, I've had kids show up at 4 that they were ready to go in there and start learning how to get their guard up and so on. Uh, as far as too old, doesn't exist. If you're of an age that you want to go in and start training, do it. And like I said, it's more about, if you're 40, 50, 60, 70, going in and learning something, growing yourself in different ways. Maybe you do have some more physical limitations than you had when you were 18. But who doesn't, man? I'm a walking ball of injuries from all the stuff I've done, mostly football in high school, to be honest. But at the same time, you can do workarounds. Just start learning what your body can and can't do. And every martial art and every good martial art instructor will help you find workarounds for what your body will and won't do. Trust me, we know all about how to function with injuries and not make them worse. All of us do. We've all done some dumb things when we were younger and are paying for it now physically. So we know how to not do a thing that's going to break you, but a way around it to make so you still do the movement and do whatever you're trying to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think now is the time. Man, if worldwide we had the thinking of adults change to it's not too late, just imagine how full our martial arts schools would be with adults, right? Because so much of it is that, they'll bring their kids to do karate, but they feel they're too old to do it, right? And yeah, maybe you have to modify some things with age, but your health is your life, and it's just a good practical way to be healthier, happier, and how about learning some self-defense, having some peace of mind and that stuff. But yeah, I agree there. All right, what's your favorite martial arts technique? Or let's phrase it like this: if you could only learn one technique, you've probably been approached by this with people, show me one martial arts technique. What would be the best one?
You know, if we're talking, it depends what we're talking about. Uh, Although my favorite thing to do is probably a side kick, just because I can funnel pretty much anything off of that. But yeah, let's go with that. Thing is, that might be my favorite thing to do in certain formats. But ultimately, once again, what's your go-to? That's something that Joe Louis used to talk about. Was whenever the chips are down, what is the one technique that you can do that nobody can stop? What is it for you? Is it a cross? Is it a round kick, back leg round kick? Is it what is it? Is it your hook punch, your side kick, your whatever? But what is the move you can do that they can't stop? And I think for everybody, that's got to be your thing you do. For me, maybe a side kick, but I think for other people, I think a side kick is a kick that some people can do and some people cannot. I don't know. What is it for you? What's your go-to?
Yeah, that's also could be answered in a lot of ways. I would kind of start with just your stance. I mean, you know, uh, if you want to call that a technique, and then very similar, a jab, a left hook. Yeah, but I think it would always be basic. It's not going to be a 720 or tornado kick. It's always going to be something basic that's most important.
As all of my trainers have said over the course of my entire life, if you can't jab, you can't fight. It's that simple.
Hmm.
And if you can't stop a jab, you can't fight. And so
Yeah.
that may be the most fundamental best thing to learn, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. A lead sidekick is a good one too, man. All right, so let's talk about fighters. Who's your favorite all-time fighter and why?
My favorite all-time fighter. Gosh, that's a tough one. There's a lot of them. Um, Favorite all-time fighter. Well, of course I like Bill Wallace, but I'm not sure that counts because he's a friend of mine. Um,
Hmm.
but he is pretty good. Uh,
Undefeated, man. He was a legend, right?
yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
Hmm.
Um, I liked him. I liked I liked Ken Shamrock in the early days of UFC and stuff. That was pretty cool. Um, I liked Muhammad Ali an awful lot. I liked how smooth he was and how he's moving around and popping stuff out. I liked Sugar Ray Leonard an awful lot for the same reason. Um, and actually, uh, one of my favorite fighters to watch was Razor Ruddock. I don't know if you remember
Hmm.
him from back in the day,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Hmm.
he'd do an offline 45 and just destroy people with it. Uh, I mean, you see these fighters that are a little bit forgotten because they lost to Mike Tyson, but if Mike Tyson's the only guy that beats you, you're pretty good, man.
Yeah, yeah. You still won. Yeah. True. Yeah. It is hard to narrow it down to one. I guess it kind of depends, but yeah, those are good choices and reasons. What about a martial arts movie? Um, Best martial arts movie and why?
I gotta say, my favorite martial arts movie is probably Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Uh, uh, it has a very Chinese ending where everybody dies, and in China they like that kind of ending because they want the whole story, right? Uh, but when I lived in China, Chow Yun Fat was my favorite actor in China, and especially there was a western that he made that I thought was really fun. So whenever he came over to America, and I think he in one of the Rush Hour movies, maybe I forget, but he
I
did a
think
few in
so. Yeah.
America, yeah, uh, that I quite liked. So, but Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I think maybe my favorite kung fu movie. Um, uh, Although the most influential ones were some of the late 70s, early 80s Chuck Norris movies. Probably Lone Wolf McQuade was maybe the
Uh-huh.
most influential martial arts movie for me. Although I kind of like Breaker Breaker too, even though that was a pretty horrible movie. But there was the scene where he grabs the guy's arm and does the hook kick over his arm and round kicks him in the face. And, little kid me thought that was the coolest thing since sliced bread. So uh, probably those.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have Enter the Dragon, Best of the Best one. Oh, Billy Jack. You can't forget Billy Jack. Yeah.
I admit Enter the Dragon holds up for me, and Best of the Best. I like that movie as well. In fact, our mutual friend Ricky has that poster in his office on all the Zoom calls as his background. But I got to admit, Billy Jack, as I watched it again, the storyline didn't hold up for me very well.
Right.
But
Yeah.
the spinning pressing kick scene that still held up, right? Where he does the
Yeah.
"I'm gonna kick you on this side of your head." Anyway, that's
Yeah. Classic, man. Classic. All right. What about a martial arts book?
my favorite martial. Well, obviously the ones I wrote.
Oh, okay. Hmm. Hmm.
What's my favorite martial arts book? For a while, I was really interested in the stuff by Yang Wing Ming, where he talked about his thoughts on internal martial arts and so on. They went in kung fu. They went to a certain level and layer, uh, but I thought were a really good start into that level of information. Uh, and But I'll be honest, I've got tons and tons and tons of martial arts books. So just back at the time, that's all you could get as far as there was no YouTube
Hmm.
back then, right? So you're going to get a Panther video if y'all could afford one, and whatever martial arts book they had over at Barnes and Noble or wherever I could get. I guess what was it? What was that bookstore they had in the mall? Um, anyway, I also remember I liked Bruce Lee's book quite a bit at the time. Whenever I first got a hold of it. So I don't know. I like books a lot though. I own a lot of books. I read a lot of books. So as far as my favorite martial arts book, I can't say I've got one, but I can say I like martial arts books.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, I had a ton of magazines in the days when, we those were a thing that we could buy. So I had to just read articles on martial arts instead of the entire books. But I like the Book of Five Rings, Art of War, if you would consider it a book, and of course all of Bruce Lee's stuff was great. Yeah. All right. Well, what's your goals, man? What do you have going on next? Anything else you want to kind of share with the audience here? So you're not hanging your belts up tomorrow. You still got a future of martial arts as long as your heart is beating, is what it sounds like. So what are your future goals with this stuff we do, Derek?
Well, with my martial arts training, I'll continue to train in whatever interests me. Right now, I'm doing some pretty strong deep dives into layers of Krav Maga, which is a lot of fun, and I continue to do a lot of work into Chinese internal martial arts, exploring internal power and stuff like that. So those things are never going away. Um, uh, then right now, I'm also doing the Superfoot stuff still, and I'm enjoying that. And I'm actually looking at training in a couple of different things for fun. I've done a lot of Eskrima and Kali kind of stuff, and I've got a couple of other options to maybe pursue some different avenues in that interest me. Uh, and I've got a couple of interests in a couple of jiu-jitsu teachers that have some stuff that kind of sparks my interest. That is a bit of a problem. Having done this for 40 years, is that whenever I was younger, I could just look at anything and it would be brand new and interesting to me. But now I've got to be a bit more finicky about what piques my interest or what's something I already know. But
Yeah.
there's plenty of stuff. There's at least 5,000 years of thousands of people all over the world studying stuff. So there's still things to learn, and that excites me. As far as businesses go, um, I'll be honest. I don't open a business to open a business. I open a business for a person that I believe in, and so I am going to open more schools. Uh, Whenever the people that I believe in are ready to do it, we'll open a school for them to help them be in a position to be successful. Like my youngest daughter has an interest in that kind of thing, and I'll help her with anything she needs. So, but again, to me, once as always, it's about people and relationships and helping people achieve things they want, much more than just me getting rich. Because who cares about that? That's not important to me. I can eat, have a car, I'm fine. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
basically, I plan to keep on training forever until I die, and that's pretty much that.
That's good, man. Those are some good examples of martial arts as a way of life. Not just a checklist or bucket list or a hobby or whatever. That it is truly a way of life. And I'm going on 40 years of it myself, and have nothing but plans to just continue to learn and grow and help others. So that's what we have to do to slowly make it a better place. But man, I really appreciate the time, and thanks for coming on. I know it was short notice, and you're headed to the beach, and I hear you love the beach. So
I love hanging out with my family, and if the beach is where they want to do it, well, I guess that's where we're going to be.
that's right, exactly. Well, if people are in the area, Asheville, North Carolina, we just look up Premier Martial Arts and Mr. Derek Crowley, and go have a good time. Yeah. So I appreciate it, sir. We'll see you soon around the world, and talk and hang out from there, and all of those good things. And guys, I appreciate you tuning into the episode. Be sure to check out all the previous episodes. There's some great content, as well as our YouTube channel at James Cox Martial Arts. Thanks.